yourself then. So, but I won't do that to you because you're amazing, incredibly compassionate and driven, has accomplished a lot for your young age, and let's give a really great welcome to Sarah Hargreaves.
Thank you, Helen. That was probably the best introduction I've ever received. Very nice. All that was very nice. I need to stand. The two other times I've given this talk or speech, I've had the benefit of a podium or lectern or whatever, because I don't, even my own words I can't memorize, so whatever, go figure. But I will be using this. This talk is a little bit I wrote back in 2011, as a matter of fact. I don't know. No, I shouldn't have said anything. I'll be okay. So it was just an interesting kind of like coming together of different events. So what prompted me to write this talk that I'm about to give is there is an event not put on by me or by the Kansas City Atheist Coalition, but an event put on by college students and other interested parties called Slut Walk Kansas City. And I think some of you may have attended that event, but it was in 2011. It was organized by people. So Slut Walk started, as a matter of fact, in response to an event where a Toronto police officer said to a woman who was reporting her assault that women who do not wish to be raped should avoid dressing like sluts. So this got out and kind of rallied people against what, I'm sure we're all somewhat familiar in this room, what's called, slut shaming and victim blaming. And obviously how impactful and traumatic that is. I mean, you've just been the victim of a horrible crime, and then the person that's supposed to be, there to help you, is attacking, is insulting you, attacking you, berating you, degrading, the list could go on with that. So Slut Walk is in response to that kind of attitude, and they just organized rallies all around the country. So a group of people did that here in Kansas City, just to kind of like get the word out there, like we're not going to tolerate this kind of attitude anymore. This is disgusting. We all need to, get over this mentality of blaming victims, of blaming women for their own, blaming the victim for a crime being perpetrated against her. So at this rally, they invited different parties to give short little 10-minute talks if they wanted, and the Kansas City Atheist Coalition participated in that Slut Walk event. And they invited me to talk if I had something to say. It just so happened at that time I had been co-facilitating a women's sexual assault support group at that time for 6 years. I no longer am a co-facilitator for that group, but anyway, so I had a background with that, and kind of that in combination with my own thoughts about religion. So I think you'll see how this all comes together once I get into my talk. But I just want to give some background for what made me write this little bit. So this is what I said at Slut Walk KC. Hello, my name is Sarah, and I'm a slut. I'm a slut and an atheist. Bold proclamation, I know. But I'm here to convince you today why both of those are positive self-identifiers. I'm here to tell you why I'm a proud slut and a proud atheist. I've co-facilitated a women's sexual assault support group with the Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault for 6 years. As I'm sure you can imagine, certain themes continuously emerge in groups like this. While every person's assault is different and every woman's journey is unique, there are going to be some parallels and overlaps in experiences. We discuss grounding techniques for triggers and flashbacks, combating cognitive distortions with rational responses, how the hell to get to sleep at night. Probably the most common topic for discussion, the most emotionally damaging issue for women to work through, other than the trauma of the assault itself, is the psychological and emotional damage caused by victim-blaming comments and responses from friends and family members and law enforcement officers after a victim's disclosure. I would like to challenge believers and non-believers alike to take a cold, hard look at 5 religiously rooted, unsupportive, and victim-blaming attitudes. 1. First and foremost, Madonnas and whores deserve equal treatment. If you've never heard of the dichotomy between the Madonna and the whore before, here's the Reader's Digest version. Women who uphold the virtues of the Madonna, the mother of Jesus, women who are pure, virginal, and submissive to male authority, deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. While women who act in a way not in accordance with these edicts, women who dress or act seductively, who drink or dance, or flirt with men, or heaven forbid, actually have sex with men, or are disrespectful towards men, they are dirty prostitutes who deserve to be mistreated, even raped. That is the heart of every "what were you wearing?" question. Or, "were you flirting with him?" comment. Were you acting in a way that gave license to male mistreatment, slut-shaming and victim-blaming in its purest form? In one of the most heartbreaking disclosures ever intimated in group, a woman explained that she earnestly believed her rape was a punishment from God for an affair she had on her husband. I'm actually really appreciative to hear the moans about that, because sometimes I feel like that falls a little flat. And I didn't go into like hyper detail about this, partially out of respect to the women's privacy and everything. But this woman's rape was horrific, and she honestly, she'd been a member of this group for at least a year, and it was a year before she could share that burden on her heart, and she honestly believed that. She honestly, for years, believed that this was a punishment from God because she had an affair on her husband. And it's that kind of stuff that, really awakens me, and I think hopefully it awakens other people to how this is a reality in people's lives, this kind of burden that religiosity puts on people. So I digress, pardon me. Getting back to it. For years, this woman struggled with the conviction that she deserved or even caused her rape because she broke God's commandment not to commit adultery. We have got to kill the Madonna whore mentality in this society. First of all, there is absolutely nothing a woman can do to deserve to be raped. Second of all, we need to recognize that women are people and not reducible to the good ones or the bad ones. Second, this next victim-blaming attitude is slightly more insidious. It does not claim that a woman is deserving or has caused her rape, but that she was somehow complicit in her assault. One group member's father told her, "Why did you go to the dorms? I told you, women get raped in the dorms." Her father didn't say that she deserved to be raped, just that she didn't do enough to prevent it. This form of victim blaming is rooted in the religious ideology that women are responsible for guarding their chastity against men, and a failure to do so is synonymous with collusion. Why were you out so late? You went with him to his car? All imply a woman's collaboration or partial responsibility in her attack. This mentality is not only extremely offensive and insensitive towards women, it's incredibly insulting to men. The idea that all men are a hair trigger away from sexually assaulting a woman held tentatively back by societal restraints, but once given an opportunity will pounce on a woman is completely ridiculous and disparaging. Let's not degrade men to such a level. Let's assume that men are thinking, compassionate, People who desire to treat others with dignity and respect, not loathsome, deranged creatures whose lascivious impulses must be held at bay and vigilantly guarded against. Furthermore, women are not responsible for guarding against rape. Men are responsible for not raping women. It's really simple. I can be passed out on the floor, and you could not have sex with me. To believe anything else is victim blaming and an insult to both genders. Third, within the same vein, there is a hierarchy of sympathy within sexual assault based on a victim's actions during the assault. People want to know, did you fight back? Were you held at gunpoint? Did he have a knife? Signs of physical abuse, scratches, bruises, black eyes, broken bones, all shoot you up the sympathy totem. This too is a victim-blaming mentality because it suggests that some women are more or less complicit in their assault. They didn't try hard enough to prevent it, or that some rape is more severe than others. Rape is rape. No one is more or less complicit in their assault because they fought their attacker or were paralyzed with fear. First of all, it is a completely natural response to be frozen with fear. And second of all, a martial arts master can be assaulted the same as someone who has never taken a self-defense class in their lives. All rape is brutal, demoralizing, and life-altering. It all results in the utter deconstruction of one's self-esteem. Whether you were raped by a stranger or your boyfriend, in your home or in a cab, whether it was or was not drug facilitated. There is no better or worse way to be raped. Let me tell you, it's all shitty as hell. Let's stop judging people based on the details of their assault. It's crass and bloodless. The next two attitudes I'm going to talk to you about are less victim-blaming in nature and more generally unsupportive attitudes and beliefs. Your religious figurehead is not a mental health professional. A victim of sexual assault is not failing in her faith by seeking the help of a counselor or psychiatrist. The number of women I've met over a 6-year period who were judged by friends or family, or worse, who judged themselves for having to see a counselor or take medication is heartbreaking. One group member's mother told her she wouldn't need her PTSD medication if she prayed more, and offered to schedule an appointment with her pastor if she needed someone to talk to. This woman was trying to finish an undergraduate degree, apply to graduate programs, all while grappling with anxiety attacks, insomnia, and a general lack of focus. On top of that, she also had to deal with feelings of spiritual inadequacy because her mother felt that praying would fix her PTSD. Seeking help after you have been sexually assaulted is hard enough. The tendency to want to sweep everything under the rug, pretend that nothing happened, and to proceed with life as normal is strong enough without receiving external judgment on top of it. Please do not condemn someone who is brave enough to seek the help that they need. Last, but certainly not least, you do not have to forgive your rapist. This maxim is particularly difficult to combat because there is strong biblical basis for a belief in forgiveness. The Christian Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke all have verses on the need to forgive. Women agonize over this. They torture themselves trying to forgive the person who humiliated and terrorized them. Or worse yet, they stifle their genuine emotions because they believe that forgiveness is the magical cure for anger and resentment. If you have been sexually assaulted and you have forgiven your attacker, I will never tell you you were wrong for that. However, if you have been assaulted and cannot find it in your heart to forgive the person who violated, degraded, and brutalized you, I do not consider that a personal failure. Moreover, I'm here to tell you forgiveness is patently not necessary in order to emotionally heal from sexual assault. Confronting and working through your emotions is the only way to move past them, not stuffing them down and calling it forgiveness. Okay, so we've killed the dichotomy of the Madonna and the whore. We all agree it is not a woman's duty to guard her chastity. We no longer subscribe to the hierarchy of sympathy. We agree our religious figurehead is not a mental health professional and that forgiveness is not a requirement for emotional healing. But I told you I was going to convince you why being a slut and an atheist were positive self-identifiers. So why am I a proud slut? Because I have agency and ownership over my sexuality. I enjoy sex. And I choose to have it with whoever, whenever, with no feelings of guilt. When women internalize the above-mentioned slut-shaming beliefs, everyone loses. When people lie to themselves about their own sexuality and their own sexual activity, unhealthy habits and behaviors develop. Women don't take the precaution of birth control, because to be on birth control acknowledges the fact that you are sexually active and you plan on having sex. People do not buy condoms, and they're not readily available, so they don't get used. Because, again, to purchase a condom acknowledges you're sexually active and you plan on having sex. And the most unhealthy behavior of all, drinking or substance abuse, in order to absolve yourself of the decision to have sex. Blame it on the alcohol, right? I was so drunk last night, I don't remember what I did. Please don't misunderstand. My judgment is not on the use of alcohol. My judgment is on a society that shames women for wanting to have sex and judges them on exactly how much sex they're allowed to have, which leads to the abuse of alcohol. Nobody wants to be seen as a bad person. So in order to reconcile their desire to be moral and their completely human desire for sex, women use alcohol as a workaround, a way of circumventing the system. Well, that's just tragic and incredibly dangerous. So, if I have to choose between being a drinking, dancing, flirtatious, oversexed whore, or a shamed, obedient, puritanical Madonna, I choose whore. So why am I a proud atheist? Because I'm proud to be a member of a community where these victim-blaming and slut-shaming beliefs are not allowed to thrive, where women are not expected to be pure, demure, and respectful of male authority, where a woman's sexual purity has absolutely no bearing on her personal value and worth, where it is understood that women enjoy sex, and that it is 100% a woman's choice if she does or does not want to have sex. Yeah, I'm pretty damn proud of that. Does victim blaming and slut shaming still occur in the atheist community? Sure it does. There is no ideology that inoculates someone completely from these pervasive societal ideas. But we have the freedom to change and alter our beliefs. We are not bound by tradition or adherence to an unchanging sacred text. We are allowed to define our ethics and morals based on harm, fairness, honesty, compassion, evidence, and reason. Do I feel like that's advantageous on issues such as civil rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights? Yeah, I do, and I'm really freaking proud of it. That's why I'm a proud slut and a proud atheist. How about you?
How did you react to the remarks made by, what was his name? Aiken.
Body has a way of shutting that thing down.
Yeah.
Well, he lost.
Yeah, the question is, how did I react to something horrible a public figure said? And the horrible thing was something, pregnancy that occurs as a result of sexual assault is rare, and the body has a way of shutting that whole thing down. I mean, truthfully, you know, I think I reacted essentially on par with how that hit about everybody else. I mean, I guess to be honest, some of this stuff does hit a little bit closer to home to me because, you know, I mean, I actually did know women who that broke their hearts. There was a girl in the group who did become pregnant as a result of it, and she lost that baby, and that broke her heart. That actually broke her heart. So I mean, I guess to be honest, that does kind of like hit a little bit of a chord, just because, yeah, I guess it kind of does piss me off that people can speak so brazenly and uncompassionately, and I have faces and stories behind these kinds of things, and I know that, you know, these issues aren't, like, they're not trifle, they're not light. The idea, I don't know, yeah. So, I don't know, do I think I have more compassion? No, I don't. I mean, because I think everybody saw that as really horrible. So, yeah. Please, yes.
I'm assuming you started this when you was in college, or you have that in college?
Yeah, that's a good, yes, that's a very good, yeah, that's exactly right.
The college campuses have a lot to say about this, because it's a big problem on the campus. My son went to college, and they have the male version of what you just did, where they talk to him about, have you heard anything like that? The male version being how the guys how they should protect themselves from causing this thing to happen, and read the signs. And, I mean, it's kind of a little different scenario where they need to understand what their responsibilities and so on are. And so they actually covered this a lot at K-State. You know, some of the parts. Have you heard anything like that? I think that'd be something.
Yes, I have.
Go along with what you do.
If I'm understanding, I'm going to kind of paraphrase Gilbert's question. It's something to the effect of many college campuses. One K-State that Gilbert knows specifically of has classes that try and educate men about their kind of responsibility and understanding what consent is. Is that my understanding correctly?
And some other things like that.
As a matter of fact, so the group I volunteered with, MOXA, the Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault, they do classes like that I'm aware of. They do that in high schools. I really like the programs that they do. Not only do they talk about to young children the idea of good touch, bad touch, confusing touch, dealing with child abuse, child molestation, but in middle schools they'll actually talk about sexual harassment. And I don't know if any other women in here have personal stories, but I have personal stories of middle school where, like, I didn't identify it as sexual harassment. It wasn't even against me, but it was just bullying, but sexual bullying. To other young women, and it's just one of those things where you think back and you're like, God, why didn't I tell that guy, to shut the fuck up, like, shit die, like, why didn't I do that? And as a matter of fact, I know the reason I didn't. I know the reason I didn't, because I, as a young person, was Christian, and I didn't understand. I internalized slut shaming. I did, and the girl that they were bullying over this, I wouldn't say I thought she deserved it. But I think in my mind, I didn't know what to do, because in my mind I was like, yeah, she shouldn't have done that. She shouldn't be a young woman that, engages in sexual activity with her boyfriend. So I guess I didn't know the proper response. Now I just want to transport myself back to that time and age and tell those guys to go, eat shit pie, shut up. And tell a teacher or something even, it's the kind of stuff, anywho, so this is a digression. And then in high schools, they talk about this idea of educating people on what consent is. And yeah, I'm 100% for that. I think that's great, good stuff.
Louise, great. I'm going to comment. What, in your group of people that you were talking to, now, I think someone's here making assumption these are people that live normal lives and got raped in this situation, but a lot of these people are been molested from as young girls on up. How many of those people would you say were percentage? What percent of your group would you say that was? I would say it's not.
Gosh, that's an interesting question. I can't give you any kind of hard and fast answer. I will say this though about that, as a matter of fact. So the organization I work for, once again, I volunteered for the women's assault group. And I have another group, for children, a children's group, a support group. And the woman that was the staff co-facilitator, the actual licensed social worker that I worked alongside, she brought up a lot how in our society we kind of basically the funding that Moxa received for like kids who were victims of sexual trauma was so much greater. It was so hard for them to get funding for adult women who have been victims, or men as a matter of fact. Actually, I signed on to even be a co-facilitator of a men's support group for victims of assault. And that group never panned out, so I ended up volunteering for them. But, and obviously I'm supportive of those people getting the help they need, the young adults who have suffered, or the children who have suffered this. But I just think it's interesting to know that in our society, how we classify a victim. And I think it's easy for us to understand that children are vulnerable and susceptible to being victims, and we kind of understand that and are willing as a society to put forth effort to make sure they get their healing and their psychological assistance that they need. But for women and men, it's all this slut shaming and victim blaming and putting yourself in a position that you were vulnerable. I think that really plays into our perception of like who are victims and who needs help. And the percentage of adult survivors who had a history of assault as a child, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But as far as people who have been victims of multiple assaults, I'd say that's a lot higher than we'd like to think about as well. A lot of the people in the group unfortunately hadn't just suffered one assault, but had suffered, 2 or more, which is really heartbreaking in my mind. I'm waiting for the question. I know someone has it. I know someone has it, and you're too scared to bring it up. But I promise I won't be mean.
I don't
promise I will be
have
nice.
but what's this? I can't peg it exactly. What's the statistic that in societies that 1 in 3 people have been assaulted?
It depends on like most things, it depends on what study you look at. But the lowest estimate is 1 in 4.
1 in 4. So it's more common than I think people, and then more people's voice, right?
Absolutely. And I talked to a lawyer, as a matter of fact, just the other day, who was talking about this excruciating experience she was having to go through, where this law firm that she's working for is trying a case where a teacher had sex with a 14 and 15-year-old student. And as far as I understand, it was consensual. But we all understand that teachers can't have consensual sex with 14 and 15-year-olds. But the strategy that this law firm was taking was not a legal strategy. The legal strategy was something completely different, but that, she was explaining to me, isn't persuasive to juries, but what is very persuasive to jury and has a history of winning cases is doing things like digging into these girls' backgrounds and were they on birth control. Because, if you're 15 and you're on birth control, you're just I don't even know how to put this nicely, you're just a dumb slut that, and again, like I knew girls in high school that were on birth control because of fucking acne. Like, I don't know. And A, for what does it matter? And B, like, oh my Jesus, so what if a 15-year-old is sexually active with her 15 or 16-year-old, partner or whatever? That should not have any bearing in this. I've forgotten your question, I'm sorry.
Okay, Sarah, so what prompted you to get involved with this?
Oh, that's a great question. No, and the answer, okay, so the answer is not super, the answer is not super exciting. The honest answer is what prompted me to volunteer for Moxa is I was a psychology major in school, and I was strongly considering becoming a, obviously going on to get either a master's or a PhD and being a psychologist. And I guess, to be honest, the only reason that, and so I didn't even necessarily volunteer to be a part of to co-facilitate a women's sexual assault support program. I thought I was going to do like the high school stuff, like go in and talk to kids about good touch, bad touch, confusing touch, or they have other crisis line, other volunteer opportunities you can do with Moxa. They needed someone to co-facilitate. They were trying to organize a men's support group, and I was just one of those types that was like, wherever you need me. And that's why I got involved. That's the truth. That is the truth. And it was one of those things, even once I decided I didn't want to go ahead and pursue a career in psychology, once I was involved in this group, it was just one of those things where I couldn't just all of a sudden be like, well, my major's not in this field anymore, so like, never mind. That's why I got involved.
One more question. Does anyone have?
Do you think that slut shaming is based entirely in this cultural, religious, moral standards
Yeah, so just to try and paraphrase the question, do I think that slut shaming is 100% rooted in religious, ideas, or are there non-religious ideas that could, account for certain amounts of slut shaming? And then the other part of that, I don't think I kind of fully understood. You were.
I think if you could just answer that part.
Okay, yeah, and the short answer is yes. I do think, and if I wish Daryl Ray was here, because he does an even better job of kind of understanding how, the idea of like cultures and religions it's hard to fully parse out which comes from where, right? Which parts are, if anybody's studied world religions whatsoever, Christianity looks way different in other parts of the world than it does in the United States. Almost unrecognizable, like in other, the Caribbean or parts of Africa, because once culture and religion intermesh so tightly sometimes, it really is difficult to understand what's coming from. I guess maybe the part of that I'd like to answer is going back to, are atheists capable, of slut shaming? And the answer is yes, and this is the version of slut shaming I see within the atheist community most often, and I really like it when people have the audacity to ask me these questions, because I like having these honest conversations with people. But the most times I'll see it, and even saw it in a women's group, was where is that line between acting safe as a person and blaming the victim? So it was point 2 I made, the whole guarding their chastity. And I don't think atheists conceptualize it as women guarding their chastity, but I think they think of it like, well, if I have an expensive BMW, I'm not going to drive, and leave my car door unlocked or something like that. I'm going to lock my car because I don't want it stolen. And that's kind of how they conceptualize that. And, so in women's group, we would often talk about things like, what are safe habits that we can adopt? The classic one is like, take your drink with you into the bathroom. I'm a huge proponent of take your drink with you into the bathroom, and things of that nature. And so, but I think you do start to toe a line with that between what is sensible, safe behavior that we can all adopt and not blaming the victim. And I think sometimes it's difficult for people in our society to kind of know the difference. Like the idea of so while I don't find it victim blaming to suggest that take your drink with me to the bathroom, but I do find it victim blaming to suggest you dress seductively. And for the reasons I gave. And when I talk to people about this, I just like to kind of throw it back at them in a way and say, you, for instance, are a compassionate human being, and you are not trying to exploit somebody for your, you want to have sex with somebody who wants to have sex with you. You wouldn't act in a way to exploit people or to take advantage. I've just been in too many situations with compassionate adult men to know, I've been intoxicated and, passed out, and they put a blanket on you, and they don't rape you, to know that that's how, a normal compassionate person responds to things like that. But is it wise to try and not drink to the point of passing out? Yeah, it is wise. But I think I might be going on a rabbit trail, and I don't want to get too far away from your question. But lots of questions are difficult to answer from my perspective. Why do people rape people? I have no fucking idea. I have no idea. What makes rape in some countries the incidence higher and the incidence in other countries lower? I wish I knew. I have no idea. So what causes it? Is it religion? I don't know. I